Good morning, Jamaica. It is Wednesday, July 29, and it is time for another post-cabinet press briefing. And today's a nice one because it's an all-woman post-cabinet press briefing. So that's really good. I'm very happy about that. And we have some amazing guests this morning, two ministers who are the most esteemed anywhere in the world you will go. We have Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, our Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and you know I always say it, the best Minister of Foreign Affairs in the entire world. And so it's really good to have her here. And we also have, oh my gosh, the Honorable Olivia Babsy Grange, our Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, and she is known all over the world for the work that she has done. And it's always such an honor to have both of them here at the post-cabinet press briefing so that I can learn more about how to really be a minister. And so thank you both for being here. Thank you both for being great examples to me in my own journey. I also want to acknowledge our permanent secretaries who are here with us. We have Dr. Kassan Troop, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. And unfortunately, both ministers, you know, that is the best ministry. We also have the Permanent Secretaries in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. We have Permanent Secretary Thorpe here, and we also have Permanent Secretary Dean Roy Bernard. We also have Ambassador Sheila Seeley Monteith, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. We have senior members of the ministries and agencies here with us. A number of culture and sport stakeholders are here, and I know Minister Grange will go through that list. We have student leaders here with us, as always. I know Miss Omalora Wilson, who was elected president of the National Youth Council of Jamaica, is here. We also have Mr. Joel Brown, the president of the UTEC Students Union. We have other members of that union, and we have members of the UA Guild of Students. We have Mr. Kyle Kamika, the new chair of the Jamaica Prefects Association, here with us. And we have other specially invited guests, members of the media, Jamaicans watching at home and abroad. Good morning again to you all. It's gonna be a good morning. When you see Minister Johnson-Smith here and you see Minister Grange here, you know it's a great day. But I'm gonna just give you two quick updates from yesterday. Yesterday was an eventful day in Westmoreland. A lot was going on. And it's very important that we continue to keep top of mind what has happened after Hurricane Melissa. And there are still many Jamaicans that need a lot of assistance. And we saw that yesterday as I went to Westmoreland. Every time I go to Westmoreland, I get to go very frequently because of what's happening with the schools. But every time I go, I try to gauge, does it look better than the last time I was there? And it does look better, but it's not enough. So there is a lot more work that has to be done, and we have a lot of Jamaicans that are not living in conditions that we would want them to be living in. And so there's more work to be done, but I was encouraged. Yesterday I had the chance to stop by Minister Montague's activities in Waterworks District in Westmoreland. I was there with him and the Member of Parliament, Dwayne Vaz, and also other members of the community. And they were delivering a housing solution for a gentleman who had lost his entire house. And it was one of the modular units that I saw being delivered. It was a feat of technology. It was very good to see. It comes flat, and then you have the crane that lifts it, and it becomes a house. And it was very good to see. The family was extremely grateful for it. As you know, 2,500 pre-built modular housing units are being procured by the NHT. Half of those are in Jamaica already, and the remainder will be delivered soon. We also have some other containerized units that have been procured through different entities, and we also have some that were gifted to the country by the Chinese government, and we thank the Chinese government for that, and we encourage all of the ministries that are continuing to bring in those units to do so as quickly as possible, because they are very much needed. And when I saw the joy on the family members' faces yesterday. It really reminded us of why we're doing what we're doing. It's not just, so that we can make noise about things. It's really to impact people's lives. And that was what we saw yesterday, and there's many more to come. We're going to be delivering a number of housing solutions across the 5 main affected parishes. And so you'll see more of that in the media. We'll be highlighting that. And it's important that Jamaicans know that the government really is working to deliver these solutions. Yesterday, I also had the opportunity to visit several schools in Westmoreland, where we are doing repairs. Specifically, I went to Unity Primary School, Petersfield Primary and Infant, and Cokesview Primary and Infant. I saw some encouraging work being done, but there is still more work that needs to be done. At those schools, it's significant sums that's being spent. And I don't think we talk about it enough. And so this morning, for example, Unity Primary School, the budget for that school, one school in Westmoreland, is $990 million. $990 million. And that's almost $1 billion for one school. So that school is completely being rebuilt, and they're adding new classrooms. Everything will not be ready for September, but we're putting in place as much as possible. I want to commend the PS and the team for putting through these procurements as quickly as possible, doing them very transparently, and work is happening. I also, when on my tour, I went to Petersfield Primary, had been there in May, and the school was in really bad shape. And I was able to see significant progress from May. In another 2 weeks, they will have the roof up. Most of the existing structure that could be repaired will be ready. But the new classrooms, they had an entire classroom block that went. And the reason that classroom block went was what one of my building officers calls self-help. So schools, have a lot of need, and you have a lot of demand for their programs. And they then decide, I need some new classrooms, let me build something. It's not built to standard, and so they are lost in a hurricane. But we need the classrooms, and so we have to build them, but that's a big piece of construction. And so that's the case at Petersfield Primary School. Their bill is $302 million for repairs. I also went to see Cokesview Primary and Infant. That one isn't moving as quickly as the others. And there's a lot more work to be done, and that's one of the reasons I went out. Cokesview was one that was not on my list to visit, but I visited it because you want to see what's happening even in places you weren't meant to go to, and where they can't prepare for you to be there. And at that one, it was clear that intervention is needed to move it along quicker with the contractor, and so we'll intervene there. That one is another one. You see the foundation, and you see absolutely no school on top of the foundation. It's completely gone. That bill is $700 million. So a lot of money is being spent to rebuild our schools, some going more quickly than others. But the work is being done at significant cost, and I thank the Ministry of Finance for their support. They are giving the money for the schools. They have prioritized the schools in terms of spend. The school is an important part of our community, so when you build back the school, you're helping to build back the communities. And so this work is very important, and we will continue to monitor the work through the ministry. As I said last post-cabinet press briefing, we will be putting up the list of schools being repaired, what is being done for those schools, the value of the contracts and who the contractor is and where we are with it. We're all in this together. We have to be transparent in terms of what's happening in our schools, and we will be transparent throughout the process. And as I said, because so many of the schools need complete rebuild, they're not all going to be finished for September. Work will be continuing throughout the period. So with the principals, I was talking to them about, okay, you're going to have 8 classrooms ready for September, but your ideal number is 13. how are you going to manage until the rest of the classrooms are delivered? And most of the principals already had a contingency plan. And so our principals are very good. They're very good leaders, and they're working through it. And for them, they're happy because they know they're going to get a better school at the end of it. It may mean additional time, but they're going to get a better facility. And that's really what matters. So this money is not just money being spent to put back the school the way it was. It is going to be better than before. And so those are my two updates from my day in Westmoreland yesterday. And so I'm going to move now to our specially invited guests, the ones you really want to hear from. And we're going to be starting with our Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, who is known around the world for all of her advocacy. She does such a fantastic job. She leads on some of the most delicate multilateral discussions, and we are honored to have her as our Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Good morning, Minister.
Morning, Dana. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. And so I greet you, my dear cabinet colleague, Minister Grange as well, permanent secretaries that are present, teams that are present. I am, not only are we having an all-women press briefing this morning, but my team is all women. So I want to recognize my permanent secretary, my chief technical director, my head of bilateral and hemispheric, and the director of consular affairs who are with me this morning. Welcome to you all. Oh no. Welcome, Mr. Simmons. Welcome, Mr. Simmons. Mr. Simmons is here, keeping us all together. I want to recognize the other members of ministries, departments, and agencies that are here today, our young people that are present. I hope you'll find this interesting, and nobody has any 10-page AI-generated question for me at the end that I cannot answer. Make it one page, please. And of course, those of members of Jamaica and the diaspora who are joining us online, welcome to you this morning. Members of the media, also welcome to you. It's always a pleasure to be here, and let me commend you, Dana, on the fantastic job you've been doing in making sure that you have well-organized regular briefings of the public on developments in cabinet, as well as across the government space, because sharing information is so important, not only in a world where misinformation thrives, but just for general understanding and constant updating, because we are in an era where information is what people crave. I am sorry to advise that this morning I have 1,000 pages of information to share with you. It has been a while since I've presented, and therefore we have a lot of information to share. I hope you'll find it interesting. I give you the assurance that it is not all that I have to share. I have tried to cut it down with the help of my team. But the work that we do is so multifaceted, and it's so connected to things which are seen and unseen and not even understood. But it impacts lives directly and indirectly, not only in Jamaica, but globally. And it therefore is very difficult to condense. But I want to try to share some things with you which you may find interesting and relevant to the world as you know it. I'm going to start with the 51st regular meeting of CARICOM heads of government. I'm starting with the region. You would have seen in reports, or you've seen in reports undoubtedly, that this meeting was held in St. Lucia under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Pierre, and that it was held in early July. Our delegation was led by Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, and the Prime Minister joined his colleagues in addressing several matters of pressing concern to CARICOM. And the chief among them, which I know has been of importance and interest while I have been traveling, is the matter of TCN arrangements with the US and the circumstances in Cuba and in Haiti. So I wanted to touch on those issues for you. In respect of TCN arrangements, CARICOM leaders discussed draft memoranda of understanding on transit arrangements for TCNs that have been proposed to individual member states rather, by the government of the US, and they issued a statement on the matter. Jamaica joined the region in making clear that, and I quote from the statement, that every effort would be made to ensure that TCN arrangements do not disrupt the security of countries in the region or divert resources and services from citizens of respective countries. So this was a sort of baseline understanding, recognizing that some countries had signed, some countries hadn't yet signed, but were in discussions, but that all had been, in one way or another, engaged on the issue. Some had even started to receive TCNs, as you have undoubtedly seen reported in the press. The statement also further clarifies that the MOUs are intended to provide for the transit of individuals without criminal antecedents to their home countries rather than settlement in member states. So again, there are transit arrangements for persons without criminal antecedents. And it was important enough for the statement to say that it is important for citizens of our member states to understand this difference. We all have deportation arrangements whereby we receive our own nationals who have committed, who have broken the law in the countries that are returning them, and this occurs with the US, the UK, Canada, and other countries in the same way that Jamaicans deport persons who come to our country illegally or who break the law here, who are foreign nationals. We deport also. So that's different from what is being contemplated here. For local context, I want to, and within the context of my role as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, I want to confirm that the government of Jamaica affirm our commitment to safe, orderly, and regular migration, and to the dignity of migrants in the circumstances where they move. I wanted to also this morning, alongside statements made by the Deputy Prime Minister and indeed Minister Morris Dixon and other members of the government, I wanted to emphasize the following facts, just very quickly. One, the arrangement is not yet finalized with the US government as the operating procedures are still not settled. They continue to be under discussion. And secondly, here comes the headings. Whatever the procedures that are agreed, 10,000 people are not coming under the MOU. 10,000 people are not coming. The arrangements proposal is for up to 25 persons per fortnight, and it is not committed that every fortnight people will come. Secondly, there are no criminals that are coming under this arrangement. Thirdly, the individuals that are coming to transit. They are not coming to stay. The International Organization for Migration, this is the United Nations agency responsible for matters related to migration, will be responsible for their temporary accommodation, their food, any health care, or any other necessities which they may have, including the arrangements to return them to their home countries or such other arrangements as they undertake with their agreement. And fourthly, the IOM will be funded by the US government to take on this role, not the government of Jamaica. Furthermore, the IOM will be responsible for their transit, and as a safeguard that we have specifically negotiated, if more than 10 people apply to stay, whether as refugees or any other humanitarian regime, the agreement itself, MOU, will be suspended. So I want to just share those facts with you in the clearest, most succinct way, separated from any other misinformation or misunderstandings which exist in the public domain, and hope that this helps to clarify this issue as it was one of great public interest. In a connected matter, again on the matter of Jamaican nationals, it has also been reported that 3 Jamaican nationals had been transferred from the United States to the Kingdom of Eswatini under a TCN arrangement between that country and the US. And on the 16th of July, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade had issued a statement advising that contact had been made with 2 of the 3 persons, and that both had advised that they did not wish to return to Jamaica at this time. I want to just update that Jamaica's High Commissioner accredited to South Africa, which is accredited to Eswatini, has since spoken with the 3 nationals, and their positions are shared and unchanged. We had also sought a formal response from the United States government on the circumstances around which it was determined that they should go to Eswatini, but we have not received a formal response. Still in the region, we are now at the situation in Haiti. And again, this is returning to the CARICOM heads discussions. Heads had also issued a statement in which they reiterated CARICOM's unwavering support for Haiti as it continues to restore national security and advance preparations for democratic elections. The conference acknowledged Jamaica's presence through the Deputy Force Commander. You know, Jamaica holds the role of Deputy Force Commander within the Gang Suppression Force, or training contingent, which has trained now almost 1,000 members of the HNP and military since our deployment earlier this year, and our advocacy for resource mobilization together with the government of the Bahamas, with whom we sit on the standing group of partners that oversees the implementation of the UN resolution which supports the existence of the gang suppression force. CARICOM also acknowledged the role being played by the eminent group of persons, of which former Prime Minister Golding is a member, together with former Prime Minister Anthony and former Prime Minister Christie. The EPG has continued to facilitate dialogue among Haitian stakeholders and agreed to continue its advocacy for the renewal of the mandate of the gang suppression force. You may wish to note that the GSF resolution, which was passed last year after the UN General Assembly, that it is scheduled to expire this year, and accordingly we continue to advocate for its renewal at this critical point, and the conference therefore also broadly pledged its support for the renewal as Haiti works towards participatory, free and fair elections. On the situation in Cuba, in respect of CARICOM's discussion on the situation in Cuba, Jamaica joined heads of government in continuing to express deep concern over the worsening humanitarian situation in that country, in our neighboring country, and reaffirmed CARICOM's commitment to a coordinated regional response to provide humanitarian assistance to the Cuban people. And that humanitarian response has already commenced. The conference also agreed that our permanent representatives to the UN would address the humanitarian crisis at the UN General Assembly that was held on July 7th. While speaking as long-standing friends of both the United States and Cuba, CARICOM underscored in our joint single statement that civilian needs must remain the highest priority. We welcomed recent rounds of discussions between the governments and continued to advocate for constructive dialogue as the most effective path to relieve hardship on the people of Cuba. I also want to share a few updates on Jamaica's engagements with Cuba, and particular in respect of our medical professionals. You recall that of course, we all continue to value the significant contribution that Cuban medical professionals have made to our health sector over many years. And following the conclusion of the technical cooperation program, you'd recall that a number of Cuban medical professionals chose to remain in Jamaica and continue to work on the individual, that is personal contracts. Others who had left have since returned and again are working here under individual contracts. So we just want to confirm that under the new arrangements, the Ministry of Health and Wellness engages Cuban professionals on an individual basis in keeping with local labor laws and standards. On the Jamaican students in Cuba, turning to their welfare, the government would like to update and advise that more than 65 students have completed their medical studies for the 25-26 academic year, and 5 of them are on government scholarships. So close to 270 remain in Cuba, to the best of our knowledge, of whom 40 are sponsored by the government. That is, they're on Government of Cuba scholarships, which are supported by the government of Jamaica. Since our last update, one student, a private student, has formally advised of his return home. 3 others have indicated that they're in the process of continuing their studies elsewhere through academic transfer. And we have to caveat these numbers because we understand anecdotally that others have returned, but they have not formally notified us. And this is understandable. They are there privately and on their own steam. But just to say that we have the information we have as best as possible, we share that with you. And we also have a line of communication that allows for them to not only indicate their return, but to request assistance with it if they so need. This is because our concern remains for their safety, well-being, and academic continuity. We know that prolonged power cuts and reduced public transportation causes challenges for their way of life. And the government has communicated our preparedness to assist with one-way return tickets should they wish to return but have a difficulty with affordability. And we continue to engage the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Health, as well as medical tertiary institutions on what, if anything, can be done for those who may wish to return and continue their studies here. And this is, again, continues to be difficult in circumstances where the transcripts continue to be a difficult matter to obtain, especially given that the institutions are private and accordingly, perhaps, they are beyond our direct engagement. Let us put it that way. Still in the region, but now on to the Prime Minister's engagement in Suriname and Guyana. Allow me to just briefly share with you that Prime Minister Holness also led Jamaica's participation in the 6th Suriname Energy, Oil and Gas Summit. As we're all concerned with energy and cost of energy, it is important that we make sure that regional arrangements or regional engagement continues to be explored wherever possible. So he undertook an official visit to to Suriname, as well as to Guyana, supported by myself and the Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator the Honorable Aubin Hill, and this was towards the end of June. On the Suriname side, as special guest of President Gerling Simons of Suriname, Prime Minister engaged in bilateral engagements focused on cooperation in energy and labor mobility and tourism. He also delivered a presidential address reflecting on the Caribbean's emerging role as a region of real energy significance and on the opportunities that this presents for shared prosperity and regional energy security. He spoke to the importance of a balanced and forward-looking strategy and approach to energy and affirmed Jamaica's own commitment to strengthening and diversifying our energy future. At the invitation of President Irfan Ali of Guyana, Prime Minister Holness paid the official visit there as well. President and Prime Minister held bilateral talks spanning a wide range of areas aimed at deeper cooperation in energy, security, finance, health, education, housing and construction, agriculture and food security, transportation, connectivity, and science and technology, as well as government efficiency. The work that is happening there is phenomenal, and the development is at a pace that Guyana has never seen before. In fact, the region has never seen before, and it is really wonderful to celebrate with them and to walk with them on areas where we can help to support and to learn from them where they have been able to leapfrog and adopt technology in a more direct way. The visit culminated in the signing of 3 memoranda of understanding between myself and my counterpart, Guyana's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, the Honorable Hugh Todd, spanning cooperation in agriculture, development of financial services, and defense and security cooperation between our 2 defense forces. We also amended the 1995 Agreement on Economic, Technical, and Cultural Cooperation to allow for a broader range of engagement between our 2 countries. Our leaders also met with the Guyanese private sector to explore expanded trade, investment, and commercial cooperation, and we should see more happening in that space in short order. Moving to Panama, so we're now no longer in the Caribbean, we're now within the hemisphere, with wider hemisphere. So the next engagement I would like to share about is on the high-level week commemorating the bicentenary of the Congress of Panama in June, where I led Jamaica's participation, which brought together a solemn session of heads of state and government, and I'll soon say a little more about that, the 31st ordinary session of the ordinary meeting of the Association of Caribbean States, and that is the association of all the states that are washed by the Caribbean Sea. That is the easiest way to describe it. The 56th regular session of the OAS General Assembly, so OAS is, of course, Latin America and the Caribbean plus US and Canada, so CELAC is OAS minus US and Canada. And we also, of course, recognize that Cuba and Venezuela have stepped out of the OAS, so we adjust the membership accordingly. And then we also had the 4th meeting of CARICOM Canada Foreign Ministers Group and other bilateral meetings within that week in Panama. On the bicentenary in Panama, which was essentially Panama's celebration of the 200th anniversary since they had first called together all the states which were previously colonized by Spain to determine that they would become independent countries. A fundamental part of this and why it was important to them that Jamaica be there is the role that Simón Bolívar played and the fact that he wrote the Jamaica letter, the Carta de Jamaica, penned by Simón Bolívar right here in Kingston, suggesting that there be this bringing together of the leaders to discuss matters, to quote him, of war and peace and of cooperation. I mean, phenomenal thinking that right here from Kingston, we were playing at this outsized role from 1815, and Prime Minister sent with the help of the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, and indeed Dr. Brown and the Institute of Jamaica was able to send a bound copy of this letter to President of Panama as a gift recognizing, given that he was unable to personally attend, and it was very, very warmly received, and Jamaica's presence was warmly welcome. But it was, in fact, the seat of how multilateralism continued to be, or rather how it started its manifestation and the modern inter-American system. And so my role there was to reaffirm the importance of collective action, regional cooperation, the strengthening of multilateralism, democracy, and hemispheric support, security, and how we work together to address shared challenges. On the ACS and OAS outcomes, just very briefly, at the ACS, I called for a stronger, more agile organization, more strategically focused, welcoming the priorities of the new ACS strategic plan and commending their efforts in support of humanitarian action for Haiti. At the OAS General Assembly, the member states adopted 4 declarations and 12 resolutions, including one spearheaded by Jamaica to strengthen the Inter-American Emergency Fund. This is a fund which exists to allow the OAS to send support for member states that have had a disaster, and it has always been limited at $20,000. We have not only gotten member states support in increasing the limit, but lobbied and successfully received pledges for greater donations or allocations to the fund so that it can allow the OAS to respond more effectively when disasters hit member states. So this is something, another example of Jamaica using its voice within a hemispheric or multilateral forum to benefit ourselves and the region. Jamaica also continued to call on the OAS to strengthen its work on democracy, on resilience building, on security, and the stabilization of Haiti, and to continue to work with the UN and other partners on this path. I also held bilateral meetings with the Foreign Minister of Haiti, the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy, and the envoy of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the UAE on technical cooperation, which exists across a wide range of sectors. The 5th meeting of the Joint CARIFORUM EU Council. So you haven't seen me in a while, and this is why. Right? I had the privilege of leading our delegation to this meeting in June in the Dominican Republic. It's the highest decision-making body under the CARIFORUM EU Economic Partnership Agreement. Those of you who follow these things would recognize that this is the agreement under which Jamaica participates or receives preferential trade arrangements with the EU. So this allows us to send zero duty products and services to the EU, and it also allows for reciprocal arrangements to be in place and for development support. To illustrate the significance, the delegation was supported not only from officials in my ministry, but the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the Jamaica Customs Agency at the highest level, and agencies within the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. The focus of the meeting was to review implementation of the EPA, which we believe it still has not delivered on its potential. So we're trying to work through some of the areas that can unlock some of its potential. And political guidance on this approach was what was needed at that time, or at that meeting. On the margins, I met with the EU Commissioner for Trade, Marko Serkovic, yes, spelled Sefcovic, pronounced Serkovic, which were very helpful. We discussed the EPA, and it gave me the opportunity to also express Jamaica's appreciation for the EU's long-standing partnership, for its support of post-Melissa recovery, to raise the matter of Schengen visa waivers, which continues to be a bit of an uphill battle given that globally domestic populations have a low tolerance for permissive migratory policies, if I can frame it like that. So it makes the context of these political decisions that much more difficult. But we continue to tell the news story of Jamaica in terms of our improvements macroeconomically, from a security perspective and otherwise, so that they view us with eyes that are more open than they were when visa restrictions were placed on us by different countries. On the OECD regional program for Latin America and the Caribbean, and I will have a prize for the young person who tells me what the OECD is responsible for, without chat or Claude. Without chat or Claude. Okay, we'll discuss after. You all know OECD is responsible for setting finance and development policy for the world. So when you hear us speaking about vulnerability, when you speak us talking about graduation, that the rules which say that overseas development grants cannot be accessed by countries that are graduated to a particular level. It is the OECD that determines who graduates, and it's the OECD that determines the consequences of that graduation. So we were there, and I had the opportunity to engage directly with the Secretary General of the OECD, as well as the current Vice Chair of the Development Assistance Committee of the OECD, who happens to be the Foreign Minister of Spain, as well as the Minister of the Interior of Spain, who is responsible for immigration and as well as security. So we discussed transnational crime fight and our possible cooperation in that area, as well as the matter of visa waivers. We discussed the matter of vulnerability and how it is that it needs to be considered formally in policy making at the OECD level, that they need to recognize the acute vulnerability of Caribbean island states in shaping development and finance strategies, and that therefore the global frameworks on these matters need to support resilience, disaster response, debt sustainability, and digital and green transitions. And we advocate for this not only for Jamaica, but for all small island developing states, and in particular for those of us who are in climate vulnerable regions, such as CARICOM. We were able to showcase Jamaica's systemic risk assessment tool, and also to call for simpler access to funding, faster disbursement for small states in areas such as digital transformation, renewable energy, and port and maritime connectivity. Also held bilateral talks with Portugal, with the Inter-American Development Bank and the OECD Development Center on areas which are all related in different ways to the matters I just raised, as well as participated in a private sector trade panel on integration and regional reliance, where I advocated strengthening links among existing trade arrangements rather than the creation of new ones, which will lose us developmental time. As we move on, we are at the ministerial meeting on the resurgence of political terrorism, where on the 16th of July, at the invitation of the United States, I participated in a ministerial meeting convened by Secretary Rubio and the State Department on the evolving phenomenon of political motivated violence and terrorism, which is not only a US issue but held in other countries. In my intervention, I noted that while ours, that is Jamaica's domestic terrorism threat, is assessed as low, transnational organized crime, illicit firearms trafficking, cyber-enabled crime, money laundering, terrorist financing, and disinformation increasingly blur the line between organized crime and ideologically motivated violence, and more particularly blur the line in terms of how they are fought. Terrorists and sophisticated criminals use the same kinds of networks and mechanisms. So as a highly connected island state, Jamaica can be affected by these threats even where we are not a primary target. So we use the opportunity to reaffirm our support for practical cooperation to identify, prevent, and disrupt terrorism while preserving the principles of sovereignty, international law, democratic governance, and mutual respect. And we also noted that countries of differing levels of development and response capacity must be considered by agencies as they determine policy and strategy on these areas. The voluntary national review of Jamaica on our sustainable development goals. I know Dana is not going to invite me back again. Jamaica continues to make notable progress in the implementation of SDGs, even with national setbacks experience. And I was very, very honored to present our third voluntary national report, anchored by the POJ at the United Nations in New York. I note that prior to my presentation, there were local media reports of Jamaica that were headlined by Jamaica having more than 34.7% of our SDG targets having regressed. And I thought in that context, post-VNR presentation, I thought it would be appropriate to share that Jamaica is recognized as the top SDG performer in the region and one of the top SDG performers globally. More particularly, we have 65.3% achieved or have made limited progress. So this is 25% achieved and 40.3% with limited progress, respectively. Our rate of achievement is not only it's not only above the global average, but it is double the regional average. There is not, this is not about boasting or laurel resting. There is still a lot of work to be done, and the entire world is off target. But when you recognize where we are comparatively, having gone through Category 5, Melissa, Beryl, Raphael, drought, worst drought in 30 years, unseasonal rainfall in the east and west, COVID, all of these things, and to still be twice the regional average and above the global average, and to continue making progress. You recognize why it's important for us to not only recognize that at home that these are achievements of which to be proud, and it's a testament to the policies and the procedures that we have in place, but to recognize that what we're doing here is not only modeled elsewhere, but it is used to inspire other countries that face challenges as to what is possible. It is possible. We are the country that shows what is possible, and that is something to be very proud of. Go further now. Jamaican nationals in the Middle East. Brief update, according to reports from our High Commission in India, which has responsibility for some of our Middle Eastern jurisdictions. The situation has been relatively calm over the past 3 days. And in any event, hostilities remain far from where Jamaican nationals are located at this time. We have only had a small number of requests for assistance to date, which has been provided. Currently, we're working on the repatriation of one national in the UAE and assisting another one that is making its way through third-party countries in order to get home, and for transit visa arrangements for family members, minors, etc. Because sometimes the challenge is how do you get home when you require visas to transit different countries. So we continue to monitor the situation closely and stand ready to assist our nationals. They are aware of the path in if they need help, and they have been engaged. On regional solidarity, I just want to confirm and just affirm that Jamaica has provided $100,000 to CARICOM's humanitarian effort to the people of Cuba. Earlier, I had mentioned that we had agreed on humanitarian support. We've provided $100,000 to that, and we have contributed $150,000 to the humanitarian effort in Venezuela, following the devastating earthquake that affected that country on the 24th of June. We want to express our thanks to the government of Guyana for the rapid coordination of this effort, and our prayers, of course, remain with the people of Venezuela who have suffered great loss and damage from such a terrible disaster. We also want to express sympathies to the government and people of Guyana in the wake of their recent ferry disaster, in which the death toll has continued to rise this week. We convey sympathies to the government and people of Japan who have suffered loss and damage in yesterday's earthquake, and to the government and people of Ghana who have suffered loss of life and thousands of dislocations due to floods in Accra and other regions in their republic. One more update is on the temporary closure of the Embassy of Jamaica in Santo Domingo. We will temporarily close Jamaica's embassy in Santo Domingo with effect on the 1st of August. You may wish to know that this is not a reflection of our diplomatic or political or trade relations with the Dominican Republic. The embassy had been historically financed not from the ministry's budget, but from earnings from visa fees. And you might recall that we entered into reciprocal visa-free waiver arrangements. And with the inability to collect visa fees, there is no longer budget that is pre-programmed to support the embassy. So we've determined to implement a temporary closure while we revisit the matter of financing, of location, of the broader administrative arrangements, and we are engaged with the government of the Dominican Republic on that. This was a matter of pure administrative prudency, and we will, of course, continue to support Jamaicans' consular needs through our honorary consul in Puerto Plata, and he has agreed to continue to provide services to others residing in or traveling through DOMREP, and the ministry will update you as soon as we have anything further to say on developments in this matter. Last matter. Second to last matter. Diplomatic Corps update. I was pleased to receive a courtesy call from Her Excellency Evelyn Mwenda Karisa, the High Commissioner for the Republic of Kenya, in the context where the Republic of Kenya has determined to establish a High Commission here in Kingston. So we welcome the Republic of Kenya. This is a clear symbol of our deepening ties. This milestone marks a new era in the long-standing friendship between Jamaica and Kenya, and we anticipate further announcements in this regard as we strengthen our bilateral and people-to-people relations. I also am pleased to welcome to our Diplomatic Corps the newest addition, His Excellency Mr. Kofi Attor, the High Commissioner of the Republic of Ghana to Jamaica, who presented copies this morning and who has now presented to the Governor General and is now the new High Commissioner of Ghana to Jamaica. And I will therefore close on this very, very, very positive note that as we prepare to commemorate emancipation and independence, I am pleased to announce that the government of Jamaica will welcome special guests during this period. At the invitation of Prime Minister Holness, Jamaica will next week host His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, for a state visit scheduled from August 2nd to 5th. Jamaica and Ghana share long-standing bonds of friendship, which you would be aware have been strengthening over the past year. And this visit is an opportunity to further strengthen the partnership between our two countries. We are also pleased to welcome the Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of the Republic of South Africa for an official visit from the 4th to the 7th, as we continue to build on the strong and enduring ties between our two nations. These visits come at a fitting time as we celebrate emancipation, and a formal release will be issued. So as we mark Jamaica 64, under Minister Grange, the theme United in Celebrating Resilience, I look forward to joining you in celebrating our heritage and the enduring spirit of our people. And I think that sounds like a great note for Minister Grange to enter stage left. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Minister. That was a very comprehensive update. When you do not see her, she is working. and she's representing Jamaica so well. You heard it here. She's an excellent representative of our country, and she ended on a very good note. And I just want to note, we do these press conferences so that our ministers can talk about what they're doing. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs is central to a lot of the work that we do. Yesterday, as I went to schools, there were some temporary classrooms that were at several of the schools. Those were from donations overseas, many times supported by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So they do work that's actually tangible in terms of our development, and it's good to have Minister here reporting on all of those. Now, to the lady of the moment, at this period in Jamaica's life, you know, every late July, August, it's about Minister Grange. She is just so exemplary in terms of building our culture, helping us to celebrate who we are as Jamaicans, and globally, she has been really at the front of how a country can impart culture and have culture be central to its development. And so this morning, it's an honor, before we get into the emancipation and independence period, to have our Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Honorable Olivia Babsy Grange.
Thank you, Minister. I don't know if I'm going to give chapter and verse this morning. But I first want to acknowledge my colleague ministers, Honorable Dana Morris Dixon and Honorable Kamina Johnson Smith, and of course our permanent secretaries who are here, Mr. Dino Bernard. I am the only minister with two permanent secretaries. I don't know if it means I'm hard to handle, so they need two persons, but two men in my life in the ministry. And of course, Dr. Catherine Troop, Ambassador Sheila Seeley Monteith. I also want to quickly acknowledge Mr. David Shirley, the new chairman of Independence Park Limited. Welcome to your first postcab. We have here Mr. Alan Beckford, General Manager for the Sports Development Foundation. And I'm really happy to indicate this morning that Mr. O'Neill Cruikshank of the Jamaica Cricket Association has been assigned to the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport to coordinate on our behalf the CPL, the return of the CPL to Jamaica. I also wish to acknowledge our Principal Director for Culture, Ms. Joanne Archibald, Mr. Lenford Salmon, who is the man of the moment with the celebrations, Mr. Leslie Harrow, who is head of the JNHT, and Mrs. Barbara Gooden, our Senior Director for Project Management, and she's a new addition to the ministry because we have so many projects, major projects, and so we had to put in project department. Other members of my team, they're here. You notice I brought everybody out, just in case the media decides it wants to ask a number of questions. But I should indicate right up front that Minister Dana Dixon and myself were attending the funeral of Stranger Cole, veteran artist who passed away. And so, you know, we're going to try our best to keep the time tight. So, there is much to share with you this morning. So let me begin, let me get straight to it. Cabinet has approved the Board of Directors for the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission for 3 years, with effect from July 20, 2026. The board will be chaired by Mrs. Debbie Ann Brown Salmon, Deputy Chair Dr. Peter Charles, and the other members are Floret Blackwood, Peter Chin, Shanette Stubbs, Reverend Harold Vern Blair Jr., Mr. Garth Walker, Mrs. Maria Morrison, Mrs. June Spence Jarrett, and Mrs. Suzette Ison. The Cabinet also gave approval for the appointment of the Independent Anti-Doping Disciplinary Panel for a period of 3 years. The panel will be chaired by Mrs. Georgia Gibson Henlin. Ms. Catherine Minto and Dr. Colleen Beaker Lewis will be the vice chairs. The other members of the panel are Dr. Japheth Ford, Dr. Donovan Calder, Dr. Lisa Herlock, Dr. Denise Forrest, Mr. Jeffrey Clark, and Ms. Khalees Spencer, Olympian. Cabinet also approved the appointment of scientist Dr. Conrad Douglas to the Council of the Institute of Jamaica, and he will be chairing the Board of Management for the Natural History Museum. Cabinet also approved amendments to the Board of Management of the National Gallery of Jamaica. And the new members added Mrs. Rachel Barrett, Mr. Rowan Walsh, Mrs. Michelle Creed Nelson, Mr. Leslie Harrow, and Mrs. Nadine Booth Gooden. Another amendment approved to the membership of the Entertainment Advisory Board, Mr. Jerome Hamilton, Mr. Delroy Thompson, and Ms. Titania Clark. Cabinet also considered the appointment of an enterprise team to consider a proposal for the redevelopment of the Trelawney Stadium. We have received an unsolicited proposal for a $550 million investment at Trelawney Stadium through private equity funding. The proposal includes significant infrastructure development to transform Trelawney Stadium into a first-class center with modern facilities for 21 sport disciplines, including tennis, a track and field stadium, badminton, basketball, football, baseball, netball, boxing, American football, table tennis, wrestling, cricket, golf, among others, Muay Thai, among others. And so this facility will be at the center of sports and entertainment tourism. The enterprise team will review, evaluate, and advise the government on the technical, financial, legal, and economic viability of the proposal. The team will also assess and report on alignment of the proposal with the government's policy for sports development, entertain the expansion of entertainment and festivals, alignment with our sports tourism objectives, as well as alignment with the requirements of international sports federations. The team will be required to conduct due diligence checks. They're also being tasked with engaging with the relevant stakeholders, including the municipal corporation, national sports federations, and others. We are excited by this proposal, which we believe could bring significant benefits to our sports development program, to our entertainment offering, and to tourism. Now, we anticipate the result of the feasibility study together with the recommendation of the enterprise team in the shortest possible time. Of course, the enterprise team will be led by Mr. Wilfred Bagaloo. Deputy chair will be Mr. Wentworth Charles, and another member of the board will be David Shirley, representing IPL. The other members will be, their names will be announced as soon as I have advised them of cabinet approval. They accept, and then they will be issued their instruments of appointment. So this means that it is very likely that we will see major infrastructure development at our main sports facilities continuing over the next few years. I refer to Sabina Park, which was our Labor Day national project. Significant work was done there, led by the Jamaica Defense Force. Work is continuing, and as we prepare to host the Caribbean Premier League. Of course, there's a National Stadium redevelopment project. Ladies and gentlemen, and this is a project of which I'm extremely proud, and you all should be extremely proud. And this is a project that is the Prime Minister is so excited about it that he has fast-tracked other projects that will be ready just about the same time that the stadium is ready. We are currently in the design stage, which is expected to end with the technical designs by July 2027. Essential work is currently underway, including site geotechnical and topographical surveys, structural, civil, and ground support survey, and the structural testing of the existing grandstand concrete roofing, which we intend to maintain. Only the grandstand concrete roofing will remain standing. Everything else is slated to be taken down and rebuilt. Of course, rebuilt better and stronger for the next level of sports performance and growth in the entertainment sector. The work currently underway will inform the project scope, construction requirements, and costs. However, at this time, there's an estimated, the stadium is estimated to cost $331 million US. To date, we have spent 666 million Jamaican dollars in doing all the preparatory work. The National Stadium Redevelopment Project is to be funded under a framework for cooperation between the Government of Jamaica and the UK government. The framework for cooperation allows access to loan financing for up to 85% of the stadium redevelopment cost, with the Government of Jamaica funding the balance. The new National Stadium will move to a 37,500 seated capacity, a 50,000 concert capacity, a 9-lane track, full roof coverage, FIFA, World Athletics, and Green Guide compliance, along with required amenities. Of course, we're going to have boxes that will be leased to persons who, you know, the most expensive seats are usually the first thing that goes when we have events here. So I know those boxes. In fact, if I follow the new chairman of IPL, we'll put additional boxes. And, you know, because he knows that those will go just like that. So the Stadium East is also being redeveloped to a 4,000-seat capacity venue from 2005. We will also construct 2 new facilities, a multi-purpose sports hall for training and competition, with access to gym and other amenities. And we are also constructing a throws area, which will facilitate training in the shot put, discus, hammer, and javelin. And to top it all, we will be constructing 2 tiered parking facilities to assist with the parking in the area. So the redevelopment of the National Stadium is slated to be completed in time for the FIFA Women's World Cup 2031, which we intend to co-host with the United States, Costa Rica, and Mexico. As Jamaicans, we think big, right? The sky's the limit. And so we have put in a bid to co-host the Women's FIFA World Cup. We hope and we intend to complete the stadium by 2029. So we will have a year lead time to just test and make sure everything is great. So we will be ready for the Women's World Cup in 2031. So I announced today that at its last meeting, the Cabinet approved in principle Jamaica's co-hosting of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2031 in our redeveloped new national stadium. Yes, you can clap. So the Cabinet also approved Jamaica's ratification of the FIFA hosting agreement and the establishment of a local organizing committee to plan, manage, and deliver our co-hosting responsibilities. So the delay that was carried in the press about the fact that we had not yet signed the agreement, we have to follow a certain protocol. And so we had to take it to Cabinet and get Cabinet's approval. The funding to support this undertaking is to be provided over the next 3 budget cycles. What this all means is that we can now go ahead and sign the co-hosting agreement, having put the necessary measures in place to ensure that Jamaica will deliver. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a major undertaking from which we expect returns, not only in performance, but also growth and prosperity. I must explain to you that as co-hosts, we do not have to put any money up front to FIFA. We do not have to pay FIFA. What we have to do is make sure we are good hosts and we have things in place in Jamaica to showcase Jamaica to the world. And we also will benefit from the number of visitors who will come to Jamaica, and we will also get a percentage of the take, which is really great. Yes, for the first time we're going to collect, right? So very exciting times are ahead as we move to the next level. Speaking of exciting times, well, just before I get into our festival, I just want to announce here that Cabinet approved the appointment of the National Sports Advisory Council, the acronym NSAC. NSAC. Now, I know that from time to time persons have criticized the government for not maintaining the National Sports Council that existed prior to our administration taking over. But to be honest, that National Sports Council really was more a name rather than a functioning body. It had a secretariat of one. And from that time to now, we have expanded the sports sector. We have now an efficient Institute of Sports. We have been able to deal with all the corruption that took place there. Some of you may be aware that there are persons who are now serving time because of the irregularities that took place and so on. And we now have a efficiently functioning Sports Development Foundation, and the Independence Park Limited is now really has expanded and will further be expanded with all the infrastructure that we're putting in place. So we have decided at this time that we will now establish a body, and it will be an advisory body to government to treat with sports, which is a big earner. Sports and entertainment. There were times when sports, entertainment, things that make up my ministry would be attached to other ministries and were not treated as if they were important. No, everybody recognize that these are the areas that, one, they make you feel good, and two, they are big earners and the fastest growing sectors in the world. So at a later date, I will announce the members of the Advisory Council, but just to say that the council will be chaired by Dennis Chung. So I move on now, speaking of exciting times. We're at that time of the year when we honor the ancestors, reflect on our country's achievements, and bask in our good fortune to be Jamaicans. Festival time is when we celebrate all things Jamaican. The Jamaica 64 celebrations have been going well. We have selected the Jamaica Festival song, a beautiful song called I Love Jamaica, by the talented Dee Burns. It's a patriotic song that celebrates our island home. There were other songs that were quite some humorous. Yes, I won't mention those songs, but I know that persons thoroughly enjoyed the presentations. We normally have 10 top songs. Unfortunately, we had to disqualify one of the 10 songs because in doing our due diligence, we found out that that song was previously released. And all the songs that enter the competition must be original songs. Next year, we have a milestone year, Jamaica 65. And it will be the last year that our celebrations will be held at the National Stadium. After that, we will prepare for our expansion and redevelopment. But I'm just putting everyone on alert. Jamaica 65 will be a special year. So on Friday, July 31, we have our Emancipation Jubilee in Seville, St. Anne. And we will pay due respect to the ancestors who suffered, survived, and defeated enslavement to ensure that we are free today. As we remember and reenact the moment when the clock struck midnight on August 1, 1834, bringing an end to the enslavement of our ancestors in this country. And we are all sitting here today as free people because of them. We will commit to continue the fight for reparations for the hundreds of years of horrific suffering that our forebears endured. We can't give up now. So Emancipation Jubilee, ladies and gentlemen, will showcase the traditional folk forms and the contemporary culture. We're bringing all the traditional folk forms from across the island to showcase at Seville, and as well as showcasing our contemporary music, reggae music, and dancehall. This year's list of performers include the Charlestown Maroons, the Hertford Cultural Group, the MunchieB Culture Group, gospel performers including Sister Pat, and of course, our reggae queen, Marcia Griffiths. As usual, the Jamaican National Heritage Trust will provide, and we're always very proud of this, chocolate tea. And I'd planned to bring some mugs here today for the media, but unfortunately we could not get the cups here in time. But I'm inviting the media to come. You'll all get your chocolate tea. And those who have mugs at home, no matter if they're chip up, you bring them, because we're going to have chocolate tea for everybody. Now, Emancipation Jubilee begins at 6 p.m. and we go all night, because this is a tradition, into what our enslaved ancestors would call August morning, into the wee hours of the morning. We reenact, we do the proclamation, we reenact the proclamation, and we also do wreath laying at the tomb of enslaved Africans who were buried at the back of the Great House, that we exhumed and we reinterred them in front of the Great House. The Seville Heritage Park is really sacred ground. It is where the four cultures meet: Tainos, the Spanish, the British, and the African. And I'm really proud to speak of the fact that recently we were able to reestablish the African village through a partnership with the government of Ghana. And I want to thank Minister Johnson Smith for making that happen. Now, we move on to Independence Village, which is being established on August 1 in the stadium complex. Independence Village will include 6 exciting nights of entertainment, Jamaican food, arts and crafts, family activities, exhibitions, and more. We will showcase Jamaica in the Independence Village. It will open at 4 p.m. each day, and the activities do not require tickets. But the evening activities will require tickets so that we can do some crowd control. Tickets for evening activities in Independence Village will be available from today at the Ranny Williams Entertainment Center. The evening activities at the Independence Village will include the Miss Jamaica Festival Queen Coronation, which is on Saturday. On Sunday, we will have the grand finale of the Jamaica Gospel Star. We are now down to four finalists, and the public vote will help to decide the winner. So we encourage the country to get involved and rally behind their favorite. Now, I should explain to you that the diaspora also has the opportunity to participate in the voting through the Reggae app. So the Jamaican diaspora across the world is also participating. They participated in selecting our festival song, and they will be participating in selecting the gospel star. Monday evening, we will have the ever-popular Mellow-go-round. Everybody loves Mellow-go-round. It's a potpourri of Jamaican culture, and it showcases our outstanding, I would say young people primarily, who have won gold, silver, and bronze medals across the island in the Festival of Arts. And so Mellow-go-round is on Monday evening. On Tuesday, we will introduce a new event, ladies and gentlemen. It's called Independent Soul Tuesday. I don't know how many of you stay on top of things, but Soul Sunday in Portmore is wall-to-wall people. So the folks who organize Soul Sunday in Portmore are now going to organize Soul Tuesday in the Independence Village. And we really look forward to a massive turnout there. On Wednesday evening, we have also introduced a new component. We know Jamaicans love bingo. We know Jamaicans love to play dominoes. And so in addition to all the entertainment, we have introduced a games night. And I know there are a lot of persons here who always love to give people 6 love in dominoes. So we're going to have the media there to see who's going to get love. I see my 2 permanent secretaries. One is the domino expert, and one wants to be the domino expert. I won't say who, right? So we are inviting all of you and the public to come and enjoy the offerings in Independence Village. Now, the big event, the Grand Gala. Based on the requests we have had so far, we have had to go ahead and make arrangements for the spillover to be in the Independence Village. So we're going to have a watch party in the Independence Village, along with the persons who will get into the National Stadium, because we are already sold out. This year's gala will celebrate the 10th anniversary of Kingston being designated a UNESCO Creative City of Music. So there will be a special presentation to highlight that. It will also mark the 50th anniversary of women in service in the Jamaica Defense Force. And the women are preparing to put on a fantastic display of the power of women in the Jamaica Defense Force. We also celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Jamaica Festival Song Competition. And again, there will be a special presentation. The show will also acknowledge and celebrate our African heritage, our musical legacy, our national achievements, and creativity. This year, we will honor recording artists Busy Signal and Wayne Wonder with the Jamaica Reggae Icons Award. And we will close with a spectacular fireworks, as usual, and the drone show, which this year will have 1,000 drones on display. We also have, just in the last 48 hours, I think we finalized an arrangement, a display from the Jamaica Constabulary Force on it, Lenny. It's a motorcycle display. And maybe the top cop will be participating in that as well. So tickets for the Grand Gala will be available at the Independence Village starting on Saturday evening. And I'm making a special appeal that if we are unable to provide for all who want tickets to be in the stadium, if we're unable to provide you with tickets for the stadium, that you will accept the tickets we have available for Independence Village, where you can be a part of the watch party. As I close, I just want to indicate here that Jamaica has been invited to participate next year in Expo 2027 Belgrade. And this expo is themed Play for Humanity, Sport and Music for All. And it will run from May 15 to August 15, 2027 in Belgrade. And yesterday, on Monday, Cabinet approved our participation. The organizers of the expo will be picking up the cost for Jamaica's participation because they very much want Jamaica to be there. And again, I have to thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs for being Cupid in this regard. Usain Bolt, yes. And Usain Bolt will be their special guest at this expo. So we're happy that we're able to do all these things and make Jamaica look good, and that I have the full support of the Prime Minister and my cabinet colleagues. Thank you so much. Bless you all.
Thank you. You see what you get when you have all the women together. They're all working so hard. Minister Grange, that was wonderful to hear all those updates, to get the updates from Minister Johnson-Smith and then from Minister Grange. FIFA Women's World Cup 2031. I mean, it's really big things. The National Stadium and that vision. There's just so much going on. And thank you, Minister Grange. You are working so hard. I can't even keep up with you and your energy. But we're going to go straight into the questions. I know there are questions from media. Media, that's why you're here. We do this on a Wednesday morning to tell you what's going on. We bring our ministers here to take the questions, noting media that the members of the agencies, the heads of agencies that are here, they will stay behind. So if you have additional follow-up questions, they're here to take them also. So let's get to the questions.
Hello.
Good morning. All right, she said the questions are for Minister Johnson-Smith. You want to say it? I can hear it. I can repeat it. Okay, a new mic is coming.
Hello, hello, yes. Okay, Zara Burton, 18 degrees north. Many questions for Camilla Johnson-Smith.
Yeah, can you just read out the questions and then we'll try to take them together?
And also for you, Minister.
Okay, sure.
The set of questions also impact Minister Grange. So this first question has been regarding a text message that I received from just a friend of mine who used to be a journalist over in the Philippines. And he made a mention that, paraphrasing, is it that the government is misusing funds that were raised for Melissa, given that I'm hearing that a private entity was the one that owned the supportjamaica.gov site. Now, that has been in the news recently, just regarding Amber, and also regarding the information that went out to the diaspora, whether or not, why weren't the diaspora and other people who donated on that site locally told that this was a site not owned by the government of Jamaica? So that's one. to Minister Grange in 2020 with the COVID-19 telethon. Again, you raised funds, made a lot of assurances to the public about the funds not reaching into the consolidated fund, that it would go through charities, and it ended up that they ended up at the NHF, those funds, and you've never really fully accounted for those funds and how they were used, given the lack of trust that people have, especially in the diaspora, for donating funds to Jamaica. What is the plan to restore confidence, and will you give a full accounting of what happened with those COVID-19 telethon funds? Also for Minister Johnson Smith, I said I had many. There is a report I saw online, I don't know if it's true or not, I just wanted to verify whether there was anything that you had gotten that could come to your attention about any Jamaicans being victims in this U.S. war on drugs, with the boats being blown up in the Caribbean Sea. If yes, could you tell us a little bit about that? If no, that's okay. Also, in terms of the International Maritime Organization, in October of 2025, just before Hurricane Melissa hit as a Category 5, Jamaica had voted in favor of delaying a push to limit emissions from ships. I wanted to find out, why did we vote yes to delay that, given our vulnerability to climate change? On the TCNs, you mentioned about no 10,000 persons coming last week, or last time we had post-cabinet, I asked a question about what was the American response to the proposal by Minister Marks regarding the 10,000 skilled workers that you as a government were hoping to get from the people who were from foreign countries living in America. I wanted to understand what was the American response. I did not get a response. What I got was that it wasn't discussed at the cabinet level. I'm interested in finding out what was the American response to that proposal, since it preceded this January overture from the United States government. Was it a precursor? Was that the response?
All right, Zara, the other media persons need to ask some questions, so can you wrap up with your questions so we can also take their questions too?
MOU for the TCNs, it was supposed to be made public. Where is it? Has Jamaica approached the government in the United States? I've brought this up to Minister Marks before as an ambassador when she was there, regarding Social Security contributions by persons that are now in Jamaica but used to contribute to that system, whether or not those funds can be repatriated to Jamaica. Lastly, for Minister Morris Dixon, with the PEP announcements, why was the top primary school person being, let us say, the big news, rather than at first just the top overall performer being announced as a prep school winner in the original announcements of top performing primary levels students in PEP? Also, you mentioned in the last or previous press conference in March that PATH was not being used up. Well, I had asked you, why isn't PATH being used up based on the budget numbers I'd seen? Each year you'd mentioned that it is based on students being in school, and some of them are not, I presume, not in school because they're underspending PATH funds in your ministry. I wanted to know what initiative exists to get students back in school in a more, not just from the hurricane, but in a more dedicated way, reaching out to schools and students and parents. What mechanism exists to get students back into school? So those are, and then the last thing is announcement of contracts. I was noticing that even though you guys mention a lot of different contracts, from time to time, we don't get the stream of mention of contracts coming out of these cabinet decisions when it comes to post-cabinet as much as we used to. So I was just wondering about the frequency of those announcements.
All right, thank you. That's a whole lot of questions. Let me just I'll take the other questions from the other media so we can just get the ministers up and just answering as many as they can. And remember that they are available after, and you also have the heads of agencies here too.
Morning, everyone. Mahir Stewart, Nationwide News. I have one question for each minister. So I'll start with Senator Johnson Smith. Just a quick update. I know that there was a bit of worry concerning the Consulate General's office in Manhattan, given some building code issues that they were having. Just wanted to know if there's an update on how that office is. Question to Minister Grange. During the rehabilitation of the National Stadium, what's going to be the process in which we relocate events that would be held there? So that's my question to you. And for Minister Morris Dixon or any representative of the Education Ministry, is there any update you can give on the status of Mulgrave Primary in St. Elizabeth? We are receiving reports that it may be merged with another nearby school in St. Elizabeth. Just want updates on that.
All right. Any other media questions? Okay.
Hi, good morning. Crystal Williams from CVM. I just wanted a further update, if possible, if we have one, from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, if there were any Jamaicans in Japan that were affected by the earthquake.
All right. Any other media? Is that it for media in the room?
I believe we have one question from one of our students. I'm not sure if you want to take that now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
That will be the last question then from the room.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
My question is directed to Minister Johnson Smith. You would have mentioned in your discussion that the young adults should do some research on what OECD is. And I would have done a bit of research, and don't worry, it was from Google, not ChatGPT. So I just have a few notes and a question afterwards. What I would have noted from OECD, which stands for Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, is that it consistently highlights international education as an important driver for economic growth, innovation, and global competitiveness. At UTEC, however, and please forgive me, I am Joel Brown, the current president of the Students' Union Council at UTEC. At UTEC, however, international students are now expected to pay $400 before they can even enroll, while many local students are still recovering from Hurricane Melissa and facing rising tuition and fees. At the same time, UTEC continues to experience stagnant government subvention as a major financial challenge. So my question is, if Jamaica wants to compete with other countries for international students and strengthen its local education reputation, will your ministry work with the Ministry of Education and other stakeholders to ensure our funding model actually aligns with international best practices, rather than allowing these financial barriers to weaken both access to and Jamaica's competitiveness? That's my question.
All right, thank you. All right, so ministers, if you can come up, let's get through these questions. I will give one note though on Support Jamaica. And I know yesterday the head of ODPEM would have been giving updates, but what I do know is that in the disaster risk management structure, there is a finance committee that must approve any spend coming from any money that has been donated. In addition to that, all of the funds that would have been received through Support Jamaica, they go directly to ODPEM accounts. There is no intermediary accounts. They are going to ODPEM accounts. When you go on the website, you see ODPEM's accounts. And so there is an oversight mechanism for the money. Once the money comes in, there is a mechanism to approve the spend. The committee has to approve that spend. That committee is in place. I know yesterday in PAAC, ODPEM would have given extensive answers there, so I will not go any further into that. In terms of, I'm going through the ones I got, and then Minister Johnson Smith will go through some of hers. In terms of the PEP results and in terms of the students, you would have seen at the last press conference, we brought all of the top 10 students. There was a note that had been given to me while I was speaking at the release of the PEP results. and it had an incorrect information on it, and we corrected it right away to say that that top student was the top primary student. But we have, including in the newspaper, highlighted all of the top students. We also brought all of the top students here. We did interviews with all the top students. One of the things to also note is that I asked to visit the top school and the top, in terms of prep school, and the top primary school. The top prep school could not accommodate my visit. I think it was 2 days after the PEP results came out when I was going to visit the top students. They said they couldn't accommodate it. And so I think we have showcased all of the students. Of course, the primary student got a lot of kudos because many of us, we went to the school. I got to go to that school. I did not get an opportunity to go to the prep school, but all the students were acknowledged. They were all here and they did beautifully in their interviews. I heard a question on Mulgrave Primary School. That's a school that was severely damaged. Several of our schools in the West were severely damaged. At that school, I'm told they have an enrollment of 73 students. So it's a small population school, and the repair cost for that school is 65? I'm hearing it's 65. It's actually less than the 73, and that the cost to repair it is 65 million. So as we're looking at the schools, and it's a lot of money that's being spent, we're having to look at whether or not it makes sense to consolidate some of the schools. But that will only take place with community consultation. And you can understand, you know, the schools are so important to communities that consolidating or closing a school, we understand that it's difficult for a community. And that's why we have consultations and discussions, and it's led by the Chief Education Officer in terms of those discussions. And so the discussions in relation to Mulgrave are not completed. And so we're continuing to work with the community. The community doesn't have to worry. We're having conversations with them, and this is something we're doing with several communities that have small school populations. I'm looking back through the list. There was one on truancy and students not coming to school. There are many interventions we're doing. We have police even going out with us into the communities to remind parents that it is important for their children to come to school. Yesterday, as I was in Westmoreland, one of the things I think will affect our CXC results is our older students, especially our young men in the disaster areas, not returning to school. They are, as we know, trying to help their families to rebuild. And so that's been prioritized. And I had to say to the community members that I saw yesterday, that it's important that we send our children to school. Our teenagers need to be in school, and a lot of them did not return. We've been able to get many back because of our interventions going into the communities and actually speaking to the community members and getting neighbors to convince their next door neighbor to send the children to school. So we're doing a lot of work there. We also have a new system that we're using and implementing where we can see attendance more easily, and we can intervene more quickly in the Ministry of Education, and that's been led by the permanent secretary. That's a big part of our transformation, is that education management information system. I'm going to now hand over to my other ministers, Minister Johnson Smith. You can get through the ones you can, and just remember, the ministers are here after. I know many of you do little interviews after. They're here for those also.
Oh, and there was a question that came in over.
Yes, okay. I will read another set of questions that we got online. I will just give them to you, Minister Johnson Smith. There was a question about 2 Jamaicans. These are from Jamelia, who's usually here. Can the ministry speak to the status of 2 Jamaicans who were deported to St. Kitts Nevis? Also, there was one about Eswatini, which I think you answered before. If they're asking if there are any similarities in the situations, and they're asking also if the U.S. government doesn't notify us if a Jamaican citizen goes elsewhere, like Eswatini.
Okay, so I'm going to do my best, and you can let me know.
Afterwards,
Right?
yeah, we'll do that
Okay.
after. Yeah.
I think the first one that I was able to note was the question about any reports of Jamaican victims in the bombing, I think you called it, of go-fast boats with alleged drug traffickers in international waters close to the Caribbean. And I think I can safely say that we have no reports of any Jamaicans being involved in those incidents. I think I got a question about a vote. I believe your reference was to the International Maritime Organization arrangement. Well, it's what we refer to as the net zero framework. I don't know that your timeline is on point. I recall that up to last year, we had been part of the discussions regarding a delay in the vote because it was clear that there was going to be no agreement, and our view was that it was more important to preserve the discussions than to have the entire framework fall apart. And it was clear that there was no consensus and no certainty as the result. If there was a vote pre-COVID or just after COVID, then it means that the procedural circumstances would have been even less mature. So I would have to check that. Oh, pre-Melissa. Well, there you go. Okay, so it would have been the same circumstance I recall then. The vote was not going to secure the arrangement. Countries were divided across all regions. And as a builder of cohesion and a country that has been working towards ensuring that climate transitions are reasoned and sustainable, our position was that it would be better to have a delay so that discussions could continue to preserve overall substance as the circumstances currently are. I think the matter comes up again September this year. On the matter of whether, and Dana, I'm going to ask you to help me here. You were asking whether Minister Marks' proposal was a precursor or was a result of, was not following.
No, I think I got the question. What was America's response was the question. So, yeah, she was asking if America had responded to Minister Marks's proposal, the 10,000 proposal. But my understanding, you can go ahead.
I think the more fundamental point is that it was not an agreement. It was a misunderstanding. It was a conflation of circumstances, which we clarified. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. There was an interest in discussing it, but it's not a matter that's live before us at all and has not been for some time.
No, but I want to know if Minister Marks proposed it, what was the American response?
They said they were interested, but we have not taken it forward, and this much water has flown under the bridge since then.
Okay, and is this TCN program in response to that proposal?
No.
Okay.
No.
Completely separate.
Completely and 100% separate. 100%. I think it has been said before, but I'm happy to say it again, that it was not. On the matter of the New York consulate, just to say that the building code issue was not in respect of the building in which we are located. It was a building close by. And it appears that those circumstances are being addressed, and our staff and all occupants of the building had actually re-entered within days after the evacuation. May have been 2 days after. So all is safe and sound there. In respect of the CVM question regarding Jamaicans in Japan, we are aware from the report of our embassy there that there are 18 persons who have lost their lives, but there are no Jamaicans reported as having been affected by it. UTEC's Google question.
You'll have to answer that. That's an essay.
That's an essay response, but it also, I think, highlights some of the challenges in recognizing the distance that sometimes exists between international best practice and what happens domestically. So I think the Ministry of Education is certainly closer to funding models and mechanisms that are used within Jamaica. And certainly I'm sure they consult and do implement best practice to the extent possible within our budgetary constraints. I know that efforts continue to be made to find the best ways to ensure that our young people are able to be their best selves and follow their dreams, and to pursue studies at the tertiary level that will allow them to so do. The OECD is like, what is beyond blue sky? What is beyond blue sky on this? So they have recognized that that education is a lever for development, but their recommendation of standards for domestic implementation, I think, might be a little distant. But I think the question was an excellent one, very intellectually stimulating and very clearly well thought out. And so we are not going to criticize you for use of Google. I think that is.
I think there was one more about social security contributions.
Yeah, but I wasn't. Please.
She was asking about, I think the question was about whether or not we are engaging with the U.S. for those who have contributed to Social Security in the U.S. for those funds to be repatriated to Jamaica.
Yeah, there's no live initiative for that, no.
Consider it because of a situation I experienced with a deportee once, where he had contributed all his life over there, came back to Jamaica, and as a pauper here, he died. He was hoping that he would have gotten some of that security funds. The NIS wasn't doing here. There is a genuine need for persons who are hoping to access their social security.
It's something that we can look at more closely. I think there are often difficulties in the personal arrangements which people establish, and they may communicate them simply, and that is actually far from the case. But in principle, we would certainly not have a difficulty looking more closely at the issue of access to social support from funds, especially where they have been made while persons were earning, whether in the US or the UK. There was the question about the similarities between the TCNs, the Jamaican TCNs in St. Kitts and in Eswatini. And the thing that connects both, in answer to the person who had asked the question, the commonality between both sets is that they have all expressed a desire to not return to Jamaica. And in terms of whether the U.S. Formally notifies Jamaica where a Jamaican is sent by way of TCN, the answer is no. So that is, I think, those were the. Right. Somebody had said, I do not usually share agreements between governments publicly. We share about the agreements, but we don't usually share actual documents. This is something that I would have to discuss with the U.S., which is the other party. They're usually dealt with sensitively, which is why they're even not treated as the same as other agreements under the ATI. The agreement is not a unilateral Jamaican agreement where we do with as is requested. So I would have to discuss that with the United States as well as with within the government. And I think it's also important to recognize that the operational procedures are not settled, as I said earlier. They relate back to the MOU. And I think what we would not want is further sensationalization of circumstances in which we are seeking to ensure the best protective approach to Jamaica and to Jamaicans, and the most effective management of the arrangement in place.
But we're sure, this was said, that they would be making it public. You guys were making it public.
Right, so I have been traveling. I will get updated, but in any event, if there was an assurance given, if it was, your question has presumed many facts, which I question in your line of questioning a while ago. So I'm going to say that I will verify the language that was used, and I will also have that discussion with my colleagues. But they would be aware that as Foreign Minister, I do have a particular responsibility for the relationship with our partners, and that we will therefore have that discussion with them as well as with my cabinet colleagues. Yeah?
All right, Minister Grange.
In
I
the
know-
interests of Jamaica and Jamaicans. Thank you.
Well, I'm surprised that the question about the telethon in 2020 would be raised at this time, because I thought we had clarified everything. We raised $50 million through this virtual telethon titled Together We Stand. The telethon was virtual, and it was organized in a matter of days. I think most people are aware of that. We took days to organize this telethon, which normally it takes a year. And if it weren't for the support of the entertainment sector and the media, we could not have pulled it off. And we did indicate that the funds were being raised to provide protective gear for the responders to COVID, right? And we were able to get the National Health Fund to give us support and provide advance funding. The funds raised would have been spent for the purpose that we indicate, protective gear. And so we were able to cover funds that were advanced because the need was urgent. And we have accounted for every cent. I can't give you exact details at this time because it's 2020. We did provide a media report, and I thought we had satisfied the questions. But I will provide you with the information again. I'll get the information and we can make it available. One thing I want to say, that I respect the media, and we can't do without the media. When we do things like these, it's a partnership. But we also have a responsibility, every single one of us, whatever profession we have, is that when we make an effort, and it's a good effort, we shouldn't shoot ourselves in the foot. And I really want to put that on the table. When we say negative things, or when we ask questions that give an impression, we're hurting ourselves. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Minister Grange. As we said, every time we do a post-cab. Oh, okay, come on.
Yes, we are going to face some inconvenience during the redevelopment of the National Stadium. But we have put in place a plan to expand Stadium East. So we will be able, and that will be the first phase. So we will be able to host smaller events, up to 5,000. And I know in most instances, the events we have in the National Stadium do not draw a huge crowd, except for Grand Gala, Champs, and if we have a major gospel event. The other events we should be able to host in Stadium East. As far as our independence celebrations concerned, we have already started looking at doing 3 maxi galas. I'm coming up with a term now, right? Because we do mini galas in the parish. So we're going to do maxi galas and do 3 such galas across the island. 1 in the east, 1 in the west, and 1 mid-island. And so we will have those galas during the period of the stadium redevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. It's been a long morning, And I know, Minister, you have to go over to the funeral, as do I. And again, you know, we come here to take the questions from the media, no matter how difficult they are. We do take them. It's an important part of our democracy. Just reminding you also that on Friday, Denby begins. Minister Green wants me to remind you of that. It runs from Friday the 31st of July to Sunday, August 2. I will be going. Last year I got Aki butter. Did you know there's something called Aki butter? And it was very interesting from the students at CASE. They made that. There's a lot that will be on show. Please go out and enjoy seeing what's happening, the future of agriculture in Jamaica, and especially our young people in agriculture. They'll be displaying their innovations. It's going to be really great for families. And so as we close out this morning, as always, I thank you for being here. I thank you for watching wherever you're watching this from. And we just continue to pray that God will continue to bless this wonderful country, Jamaica, land we love. Thank you all, and see you at the next press briefing.